All right, probably they're going to debate this, but okay. I think if you state it right, they won't attack. I think that most times it's the husband who wants to go country living and the wife says no. And here's why I say it. Before you kill me, remember I still got more sermons to preach, all right? But before you kill me, think why I say it. Think why I say it. Country living is rough. Don't go around it. It's rough. I got the scars to show. Are you there with me? It's not smooth. Women tend to like conveniences more. They like comfort. Nothing is wrong with that. And they like ease and comfort and stuff. But if they have lived in the city for most of their life, then to transition into country living is not easy. Can you imagine a woman who always go to the faucet to turn on and get water? See you now with the bag of clothes going down to the rock and stuff like that. And I know you say that's where we're coming from. No, that's where some of you coming from. I'm talking about the younger ladies who are probably young mothers. They have never known those things. They probably still think you pick carrot off a tree. Are you there with me? So the transitioning will not be the easiest, and so sometimes it's easier for a man because of how we are built, more rugged testosterone. We might find it sometimes a little easier, but you do have cases where it is the wife and the mother who pushes to country living, and the husband probably want to stay in the city. But nothing beats that when they are on one accord. The process is. So let's hasten on to say. If you're a young lady or a young man and you're now doing counseling, or that time might come, or you might get in a relationship or whatever, there are some questions that you have to add that's never been added before when you're doing that process of courting or whatever. Yeah, and one of those you have to add is country living. Yes, young lady, you talk to the young man, you have to say, so you go country living? And them start talking and say, country living? Wow, you know, say, all right. That X there, because I can't create problem already. Why are you going to take up trouble? Because you don't know where you're headed. Where you're headed? Country living. So like how you don't get into it yet, don't go take up problem. Make sure you're on one accord. Or vice versa. Vice versa in terms of the gender, right? The male should check the lady, make sure her mind is set. All right? Gentleman, you're checking the lady, you make sure her mind is set. You say, you going country living? She say, yeah, you don't done yet. Wash clothes down the river? Wash clothes down the river? You see, she starts to, maybe. And then you say, iron with the coal iron? Not really. And you say, oh no. Got to talk to Jesus. All right, make sure you're on one accord, right? Next point out of the testimonial, the method God gave to the prophet for planting must be what? Invested in, as it reduces the time for food production in these closing hours before the great trouble. I don't remember if you saw, but in Florida, what do they have? Sand. Do we have a better soil than that here? And they tested it. Did it work? So what do you think will happen here? It will even flourish. So please investigate the method of the blueprint. It's there. The book. Which book did she write it in? Ministry of Healing, I think. But check it out. And finally, brethren must have a mindset to do what? Help others. Did we get that out of the testimony last week? That they tried to help each other and move with others in mind. Brethren must have a mindset to do what? But as we say help others, what must be added? You must what? Pray. You're going to do what? Because sometimes you take up trouble too. Are you there with me? Because brethren can be problematic. You have to make sure God says yay. Assist. So you know if you even take a problem, God saw it and wanted you to have that problem. So it can build character, right? So brethren must have a mindset to help others. What it says here, it is the only way we will be able to do what? Transition into what? Country living together. We have to help each other. That's the mindset we need to have. And God will help us if we help others. All right? So, let's start. Let's continue today. Genesis 2, what's that? Verse 8 to 9, it says what? And the Lord God planted, what's that? A garden where? Eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. Verse 9 says, and out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every what? Tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for the tree of life also, the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So, what's the first thing God set down? The garden, eastward. And our meal came out of where? The garden, right? Out of the ground. There it is. Out of the ground, right? Right here. And everything was pleasant to the sight and good for food. So, what are we doing? We're going back to the original. This is Genesis 2. So, we're merely going back to the original. God is practical, you know. God is practical. And that's why our diet has to change. Because when he comes, he's not going to wave a magic wand. If you didn't train back the diet and the taste bud, then heaven not going to be too nice for you, because all we eat in there, we're not even cooking food. All we're going to be having there is fruits, nuts, and grain. What did I leave out? Why? That was after sin, right? Will we get sick there? No, the inhabitants will not say they are sick. All right? So we won't need that. But we have to practice that when? Now. To practice that now. Let's have a second witness. Genesis chapter 3 now, verse 18 to 19. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt do what? What's this? Eat the what? That came after sin, right? Vegetables here, the herb of the field. So, you know, thorns and thistles, that's because of sin. Verse 19 says, but in the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread. I can tell you, this was God's plan, even after sin. Not an AC office, there'll be no sweat on your brow. All right? Hard work in the fields, tilling the ground, till thou return unto the ground. Out of it you shall eat till thou return unto the ground. For out of it was thou taken, for dust thou art, unto dust thou shalt return. Right there, God is telling us that we will die because of sin, and we are going right back in the ground. But the ground, eating the herbs from the field, God's plan. All right. Let's take this now. Remember, you can ask the questions, right? Let's go. It says, one of the first and most urgent problems that faces a family moving from the city into the country is the growing of a good garden, right? They keep using garden. We use the word farm, right? Same thing. Every family should use what? What is this? Vegetables freely in their diet every day. And the only practical way they can get these vegetables is to do what? And they mean the only practical way, you have it right there. Because practically, many of us, if not all of us, can't always buy fresh, right? Every family, right, so is to grow them. This is a good thing. Watch this. For vegetables prepared and eaten within what? What's this? 3 or 4 hours of the time they are picked, not only taste better, but are decidedly more what? Nutritious than vegetables bought in the store. It has been proved that most vegetables begin to lose their vitamin content within an hour after they are picked, and to a lesser degree, they gradually lose their digestibility as well. Now, let me ask you a question. When you go to the supermarket, how long they've been there? Huh? You know they can do things to make them look fresher? So how long they've been there? Can you answer that? And I didn't ask you, I never asked you how long since it was picked and transported to there. You have the picking, the transporting, reach supermarket, then it stay for a while before you buy. So what does increase? No increase, all decrease. What does decrease? Its nutritional value and its digestibility. But nothing is more ideal. Like when you say, all right, husband wants callaloo, go into the, no, let's do it better. Let's do it better. Let's fix that. Let's do it right. Say, what's for breakfast? Callaloo. All right, husband, go get it. Yeah, you like that, right? Our husband go get it, right? And then, right? Because the husband gives the food and the wives provide a meal. Huh? The husband give a house and the wife makes it a home. That's how it works. All right? So he carries it come just cut, fresh. That's potent. Right? And so we need to take this into consideration. And this will be good for our health. All right? Because I think at a certain time, we might not be able to go to the hospital. Might not be able to access it. And so our food must become our medicine. So I want you to take this little knowledge, all right? There it is. It says a good thing for vegetables prepared, eaten within what? 3 to 4 hours of the time they are picked, not only taste better, but are decidedly more nutritious. All right? And don't forget, it says what? Within an hour after they are picked, and to a lesser degree, they lose their vitamin content, and they lose digestibility as the time increases. All right? So that is a strong point to grow what you eat and eat what you grow. All right? And how they build these city places, they make sure you have to come to supermarket. All right? Because you don't have no space to do what you need to do. Country living. All right. Let's read here. This came from a doctor. Let's read up here. It says, we advise every Seventh-day Adventist who can possibly do so to grow a garden in his own backyard or on a nearby vacant lot that can be secure for this purpose. All right? He should not expect to get rich doing this. Some of us, we're still thinking about money. It's all right, time of trouble will come, but we still want to make money. Well, I have to go country living, all right. Let's see if I can make a lot of money from the farming. We should not be expecting to get rich doing this, but with careful study and painstaking work. What's the word? What's that P word? Painstaking work. He can learn how to grow a good garden, or we can say farm for our purpose, when he moves into the country. By doing this for a year or two, he will know just how to proceed when he must grow his own food. When I see that a year or two, I remember Ellen White has a statement. She says, many things that many took years to learn, they're going to have to learn in a few short. So I want you to remember that quote when you read right here, a year or two. All right? Remember, this was put together for a while. Ain't got no year or two. Got to do what we have to do quickly, weeks into months, and pray for wisdom. And I believe God will deliver. Right? right? But we have to put our hand to the plow. We have to what? Put our hands to the plow, and we have to work. It's going to build our muscles. Your muscles must be built, you know. Muscles, they must be built. Biceps, brachii, triceps, brachii, they must be built, right? Shoulder muscles, your deltoid, which is a tricep muscle, right? Has 3 heads. They all must be built. You must work, and that can't happen in an office. All right? But the farming can help. When you have to plow the land, the actions, you have to dig, the actions, it helps. All right? So exercise is happening as well. The muscles are being used. All right? So it says, in order to grow a garden successfully, one must locate it where it gets at least, listen, knowledge now, where it gets at least 5 or 6 hours of what? Sunshine every clear day. And for best result, it should not be shaded at all. Knowledge. So you get a nice piece of land, and you think you can grow on it, but when you look, a lot of overshaded trees. What do you got to do first? You're going to cut. Clear. You can see the blue sky. Because the sun is the power. Photosynthesis. What pushes it? The rays of the sun. Are you there with me? It needs it. When you see all those lovely green plants, you see them? They appreciate all that sun. And that's why winter ain't good for farming. That's why we are good over here. We ain't got no winter. Are you there with me? So, I want you to learn that 5 at least, this is not the maximum, it's the least 5 or 6 hours of sunshine every clear day, and for the best result, it should not be shaded at all. Farmland. Let's read down here. The garden plot should have good what? Why? If water is being logged, not good. You got to make drainage if that's the case. It's going to rotten the roots and the seed, and it's not going to grow. Intelligence, right? I want you to understand these things. So it must have good drainage, right? Soil type can also determine the drainage. Any location where water stands for several days at a time is not naturally drained enough to grow a good garden. And so you have to do 2 things if you see that. Number 1, you have to make drainage. Or number 2, you have to get somewhere else to plant. Or you're not going to get good result. All right? Not going to get good results. So, you have to make sure that you observe sun, shine, land, clear. That's the easy part. You can clear it, cut down trees. But the drainage now, you have to make sure that is doing well. All right? I think we planted in an area some banana trees. And up to now, they are stunted. Because what actually happens, that area holds water. All right? They are coming, but they are behind time because of that. All right? So that's very important. This says now, for good results, the garden must be at least what? 40 or 50 feet from any large trees or hedge fences. Why? For the roots of trees extend out surprisingly far, and they are likely to rob the land of its fertility and water. Wisdom. Hand is up. Mic. Here's a mic. Hold. Let's get a mic.
Yes, I was saying that where you plant the banana and the banana not striving, you can try some dasheen there. Because dasheen definitely like water. So you can just move out the banana from that area and put some dasheen and you cannot lose.
All right. Thank you. All right. That's the next thing as well. One has to know that, hand is up. That's the next thing as well. One has to know that different plants, well, let's do this. Different strokes for different folks. Really meaning that different plants like different things. Some like stony, some like a lot of soil, some like water, some like dry. Right? You're going to learn those things as you get into it. Some already know. All right? So that's wisdom, because if it's a large tree, the roots extend out. And roots are constantly taking nutrients and water. And so you plant there, it's going to affect those plants. All right? It says down here, a garden can be grown on any soil. A garden can be grown on any soil, whether clay, sand, or loam. But whatever the soil is naturally, it must be what? Enriched with what? Humus, they call it. What is that? Well-decayed vegetable matter of some kind. So as you peel the orange, as you this, that, use that, these things can help the soil. Humus. Before the soil is in fit condition to grow a good crop of vegetables, it must be made fertile and loose enough to admit readily both air, looseness will allow air to flow in, and water, and to hold both during dry weather. Right? To hold both during dry weather. I think most of us already understand the humus concept. Am I correct? Most of us would have understood that we can use some of the very peels to enrich back the soil. Right? So these are some natural ways to improve the soil that one will grow on. All right? So let's read this. It says, as we come to sense that we are laborers together with God, as we prepare the soil and plant the seed and cultivate the crops, and this says here to see Testimonies, volume 6, page 186, 187, we will get to that. The garden may become to us and our families a school in which many valuable lessons are learned. This is a spiritual context. It is a means of recreation in the sense of a change of activity and physical development, and may be a worthwhile financial asset as a better food products are furnished to the table at little cost from the standpoint of expenditure of money. Let's read what Testimony volume 6, 186 and 187 says. Let's take 186, paragraph 2. It says, the God of nature is perpetually at work. His infinite power works unseen, but manifestations appear in the effects which the work produces. The same God who guides the planets works in the fruit orchid and in the vegetable garden. He never made a thorn, a thistle, or a tear. These are Satan's work, the result of degeneration, introduced by him among the precious things. But it is through God's immediate agency that every bud bursts into blossom. God does that. When he was in the world, in the form of humanity, Christ said, and I read, my Father worketh hitherto, and I work. John 5:17. So when the students employ their time and strength in agriculture work, in heaven it is said of them, ye are laborers together with God. That's 1 Corinthians 3, verse 9. So the things that heaven considers as high value are the things that society considers as low value. So they talk about a lawyer, a doctor, but heaven talks about agriculture, the soil, or carpentry. These things which are physical and arduous labor to help to build the human structure. All right? And so when we work in agriculture, we are glorifying God. We are glorifying God. Let's look at the next quote, 187. Let the lands near the school, this was a council. Listen to the council. Let the lands near the school and the church be retained. those who come to settle in Kurambung, again, she was writing a counsel here, but we can learn, if they choose, find for themselves homes nearby or on portions of the Avondale estate. This was when they sent her to Australia. But the light given me is that all that section of land from the school arcade to the Maitland Road and extending on both sides of the road from the meeting house to the school should become a farm and a park, beautiful with fragrant flowers and ornamental trees. There should be orchids of every kind of produce should be cultivated that is adapted to the soil, that this place may become an object lesson to those living close by and afar off. Every single school that a Seventh-day Adventist raised up should have what close? Farm. Should have what close? A farm. Not sure if that's the case here. We have a few schools, but you know, many people spurn the councils. They do what? Spurn the councils. I can see wisdom in that, because the schools that are raised up must feed who? The students. Then if you have farms close by, you're not going to be spending those money to buy food in, because you're already producing your own food. I think I saw some hands. 1, 2, 3. All right, let's help. All right.
Yes. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying, we as Adventists are late.
We're late.
You're right, because the schools, the regular schools have like in the country areas, they always plant food to support the canteen at school, or raise chicken or something to support the canteen. So if we have that knowledge and not doing it, we are late, very much late. We are the ones should have showing them these things, and it almost flipped around the other way.
So when we don't follow God's counsel, the head become the, and the tail become the, that's what has happened. Back.
Yes, Pastor, as you rightly said, that is the way that we should go, because originally Israel was a people that farm and feed other nations. Because one of the principles that God used to correct Israel is that God tell Israel that when they farm, they must not glean the corn of their field, but must leave it for the Eden to come in and have a bite.
Poor.
Yes. And when they did not come in to do what God asked them to do, then they would be punished. So we grew up to know these things now, so we have to take heed. Because if we don't take heed, we will go into the same situation that our foreparents in. And farming is the way to go. Nothing build a economy like farming in any world. Farming is the strength of any country.
Amen. Well, many of us just learning. The thing is, the councils were always there. God gave them for the leaders and the church to teach the people. But alas, we know what happened. So let's move forward by the grace of God, with the little time we have, that God will grant grace and strength that we may do as much as we can. Next hand. Who? All right.
Right, it's basically reiterating a point that you had made, and it has to do with the fact that beside the school there should be one, the farm, because that is what you're ultimately going to be eating off of. But attached to that farm as well, there's supposed to be a garden, because the gardens will attract the birds and the insects that are beneficial to ensuring that the fertilization of the fruits that are on the farm takes place as well. So just, you had mentioned farm when you were reiterating it, but you missed out the garden. The garden is also very much important as well.
Pollination. Yes. Yes, at the back.
All right, so there's something interesting in Genesis 46 when Joseph was bringing his people, his brothers and his father, to Egypt. And I noticed it said in verse 33 and 34, and it shall come to pass when Pharaoh shall call you and shall say, what is your occupation? That he shall say, thy servant's trade hath been about cattle from our youth even until now, both we and also our fathers, that ye may dwell in the land of Goshen. So for every shepherd is an abomination unto the Egyptians. So listening to that, obviously, they didn't want, well, I'm assuming Joseph didn't want his people to be in the same land as the Egyptians. Is that correct? And so they would have their own lands, one, which would seem to be more of the countryside than the city. And then, for whatever reasons, a shepherd is an abomination to an Egyptian. So I don't know. I don't know if you could shed some more light, but I found it interesting that by Joseph instructing them that you wouldn't have the Israelites, they became the Israelites, but you wouldn't have them with their fathers living with the Egyptians. They would be actually separate. And so it is today when I see that we have lost vision of what God really wanted for his people. So as opposed, it's not that I don't think it's wrong to want to be a lawyer, a doctor, or whatever. However, if we maintain trade, if every doctor was a farmer, if every lawyer was a farmer or a carpenter or something, maintaining a trade, then obviously things would be much better for us as a people. But all of us now want to stock up in an office or something and sit and get overweight and all kind of things. Just saying.
What has happened is that because of sin, we lost our way, we spurned the counsels, and Satan switched it around. So what should be optional, he has made, I don't want to say mandatory, but he has put it in our minds that those are the things we must go towards. And what was mandatory, he has made optional. So farming, every single one of us, whether you're whatever, other things are just optional, doctor, whatever, those are optional stuff. But the world has put those things in light as, wow, these are the things. But the wow is really farming. So as he's rightly saying, if you're a doctor, fine, but do you farm? Can you farm? Do you, if you're that, fine, but do you? That's really what it should be. So Satan has switched it on us. That's why we have to go back to the counsels to know and to follow. All right? Yes.
Yes. What I'm saying is, I didn't really know this. But growing up with my dad was an old-time Seventh-day Adventist. And growing with my father, he had 13 of us. 8 boys and 5 girls. And my daddy had 3 jobs. He was a cop, he worked with the forest department, and he was a farmer, not a full-time farmer. But I realized he dropped the cop and he dropped the forest department, he would just become an agriculturist. And let me tell you, we never hungry. We always have to give away. And he never out of money. Never. I've never seen my father pocket empty. And he always there to help people, help others. And what I realize is, farming, him say, we will never get hungry. And that is truth. And I realize he died now in 2016. But all that he planted, the jackfruit, the pears, the bananas, we are reaping them now. And I'm giving God thanks. At least he realized that these are the things that he should do. I read a lot. He have all the books that you can think of Sister White. And I realized that he really does the right thing. And we have children, great-grand, great-great-grand. They are reaping whatsoever you have sown. And I'm giving God thanks.
Amen. You know one thing I can tell you? I never see a big belly farmer. It's not true. You go in the country, as old as the men are, first thing you know, they're coming from the bush. They have water boot, a bag, and a cutlass. And you see you passing them, they're big man. You stop and you say, oh, old you be, and they tell you all 90. And they never have no big belly. Flat. Is the farming do it? They're farming for years. You can't get no belly if you're farming. Are you there with me? So, in the city life, and you know this is true, right? Come on now, gentlemen. You're not going to be offended, right? No. So, listen now. In the city life, it's almost like by the time you left high school, as you left high school and start work, you start to expand horizontally. Horizontal expansion. And then the office work comes. It's true. The office work comes and the AC, and that's even worse because you work round the clock. You have to eat food where you buy. And this is a setup. And then the medical world tells you, once your waist to circumference ratio begins to go out, waist to circumference ratio, which deals with the abdominal area, once this starts to go out, your probability to get sick increases. So why you think those farming man there? Let me tell you something. Sometimes they don't necessarily know the truth about health, you know. All they do is farm. They're still eating flesh that you're not eating, and some of them stop and take a one smoke, but they're 90 odd, and 95 and 84 are still farming. Now, if we that know the truth, practicing and can come into that lifestyle, we're going to see Jesus come. Are you there with me? No sickness and nothing like that. We're going to improve on our body, right? And we're going to lose what we need to lose and gain what we must gain. I've always observed it. As old as they are, first thing I look and I say, boy, these the men. But when I look in the city and I see the 50-year-old and all right, and I look in the country, I say farming. The farming. All right, let's see if we can take this next slide here. It says, your hand is up. If the expectations are not too high at the outset and the task is approached from the standpoint of an eagerness to learn, this is a farming now, each year will show definite progress and increased returns. All right? Emphasis should be placed on the fact that there will be some failures. Can you appreciate that? Sometimes, you plant a whole field and nothing comes. But you learn what happened, and the next time it's better, right? So failures will come. If the family establishes as a goal, watch this, for the first year, just being practical, 60% success and 40% failure, they will not be faced with the disappointment that would result from an expectation of 100% success. And they may enjoy some pleasant surprises. It says, the interest of the family, the location of the land, and the qualities of the soil will determine the crops that can most profitably be raised. It says, it is not our purpose here to enter into a discussion as to how to make garden or what crops to grow. Ample counsel has been given by those who have pioneered the way. All right? So ample counsel has been given by those who have pioneered the way. So it is a character building process and opportunity, the farming. All right? Let's take the two hands. All right, so when you put in your hands up, you have to help the young ones, right? You have to put it up. They will see and come to you with the mic. All right?
Yeah, I was saying the farmers they're fit and they are so strong. Some weight when me see them lift up, me can't move it and me a young boy, young green boy. And some weight when me see them carry, me not carry it.
Yeah, so the farmers might not necessarily be thick. They're slender, but their muscles are firm, right? Because of the farming over the years. That's true. Next, who's the next person? Yeah, all right, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. I think one of the curse in Jamaica right now, the taxi is one of the curse. What people get this attitude, if you jump on a taxi, you move from here just down there, and you jump on a taxi. You move from down there, come up here. There is no exercise anymore, whether with female or male. And I think this is one of the curse of Jamaica and many parts of the world today. Because when you would have, even you eat some food, and when you would have work it by doing, you eat some food there, you go by your auntie and you get some food, and you then eat some food, and you then work it off by just walking, go back down to your home. You jump on a taxi, and this is the way the world is getting lazy. One time when I was a youth, and I see my parents go to bush, they ride donkey and walk. You understand? But today you have taxi man driving their taxi to their field, and I think this is one of Satan's plan for humanity to fence humanity in, that disease kill most of us today, because there are many benefits that we get from walking. When time you walk to and fro to a field, and Brother Lecky, many of the time we can testify about that. Even last week, we can testify about that, Virgin. This taxi thing becomes a curse to us, and many of us must cut it out and show people that we can walk through. You understand?
Yes, sometimes I think we are excessive. I tell you something. When I was studying medicine and I was living close to the university, there were 4 of us boys, males, staying at the house plus the landlord. And after the first year and we went on the summer break, well, in med school you don't get any break, so I'm still in school, but that one of the young men, he went abroad and worked. It's this foreign exchange, you guys know about it, and he worked and made some cash. And he came back and he bought a vehicle. And it's funny, me and my friend, we next Seventh-day Adventist brother, we would trouble him. You know why? Before the car, there was one shop in the community. And the shop was probably from the end of that wall to probably the end of this building or just a little out. So we always walked to the shop. And after the man bought the vehicle, he drove to the shop. And man, we would trouble him. We said, why you have to drive to the shop? So he drove to the young boy, you know, young, drive to the shop. So I just brought that up because it aligns with what you're saying. These things are city conveniences. But God knows how to fix his church, you know. God will allow gas price to go so high that people will park their car, not being able to take too much taxi because the gas price is so high, the taxi man raised their fee. And so the 4 taxis you used to take, you cut it down to 2 and walk the next 2 journey. God knows how to fix his people. Can you see the blessing in that? I bet you never saw that. But we have to take a conscious thought on these things and start to change our mindset, because things will change, whether our mind change or not, because we are heading into it. Yes, my brother and then my sister. Okay.
Okay.
So when I realized that we have to go to country living, born in Kingston, don't know anything about the country, I said to myself, why not start in my backyard trying to learn something from it? So now I plant, I see my chocho in my fridge have a little flowers on it, so I guess it's ready to plant. I put it in the ground, and I realized it's running all over the place. I don't know what to do. I did not know that chocho run. I thought it was a tree that grew up, right? So I'm like, I need some help. I need to know a little more. So it's very interesting that coming to these seminars, you listen, you learn, it's an experience. I'm very excited, I learn a lot of things. Like, I didn't know that Irish can grow from the skin. Also, yam. When I cook, I peel things and I put them in the dirt to rot. I use it as my compost. Now I find my tomato tree is growing in about a few weeks. It's blossoming. And the pepper, I'm like, is it that I'm over-fertilizing them? And then the pumpkin, the blossoms are falling off. I don't know. I'm just asking.
Can't over-fertilize if you want to. Nah, the soil takes all that it needs. Don't laugh too much, It's called learning. One time I told you already about the carrot, but I never make that mistake again. So yes, chocho is a vine. So when you plant it, you have to set the things for it to run and to go, and then it will bear, right? So chocho is a vine. Let's take my brother. Huh?
Yes, Pastor. I just want to give my sister just encouragement on the chocho. You have to put a piece of stick that it run upon and run in a tree. That's where it's going to bear. Just put a piece of stick that it run upon and go up in the tree, and it's going to bear in the tree. So just find a location with a piece of stick, send it up in a tree, and then it will bear from there. Yes. So for myself now, you understand, when I was a young man, I grew up to see my mother was a farmer. And I learned from a very tender age how to cut grass, how to weed, pick them up. So when you're talking about the farmer belly not big, them belly can't big because them always are exercise. They use the fork and them use the machete, and them always been walking from place to place in them farm. So by the time the day is done, they done a whole heap of miles and miles. And them sometimes they walk, come back at the yard all a mile, or you understand, so them cannot. And I've learned something when I was young, so I'm going to pass it on. If you is at your bush and in a situation you don't have any pot to cook, food can cook. And this is what I learned, and I'm going to share it with you. Dig the hole, dig a round hole, and get some cocoa leaf and warm it. Put it in the hole and throw the water and get a piece of zinc and ketchup fire and put on it, and drop your food down in it, and by 15 minutes time your yam and anything you put in it cook already and have food to eat. So that is something that I am saying.
All right, brethren.
That is something that I am saying to you, to us. Based on what we see is going on, we might not can use the pot in little more time where I come up away. So that is a method that we can have cook food. So I learned that when I was about 17, and I never forgot about it.
All right. I hope you listened. I learned. Let's take one more hand, then we go to the screen.
What the sister was saying, I too didn't know how to plant. Me and my mom would we don't dig it deep, but we dig the hole and throw seeds in there, and they say it's not so. You're supposed to plant it. It's supposed to mulch up the earth, and they plant it. So So alright, we bought a donkey, and me no know, the rain come down on the donkey outside, and I say, I feel sorry for the donkey. Can't build one little house for the donkey. Them say, no, the donkey is supposed to stay outside. So, stay outside. So you know, when you go to country living, you learn a lot. You know, you learn how to plant. You learn, and with the farmers, them, the reason why they're healthy and fit is because they get up early in the morning, so they get in the fresh air, and so they not stay in a bed late like the town man. They will wake up 9, 10 o'clock for go to work. So they will, yeah man, so they will always be fit. And the last time I saw a lady, an old lady, old, you know, on a bicycle, it's a breeze of her. I say the lady fly past me on the bicycle. I say, it's a big woman this, and me carry the right bicycle. And she old. So, you know, the country people, them fit, and them kind, and them just nice. Amen.
All right. All right, let's try and press along. Time is going. It says, next slide. In the development of the soil, the fertilizers that come from the home, dairy, and the poultry are of great value. So let's talk about, when we say dairy, we think about the cows, what their excrements are, and the chickens, right? Are of great value and highly essential. As more and more studies given to soil fertility and the producing of food products that are not deficient in vitamins and minerals, it will be learned that there are many advantages to an all-round farm program, which makes organic, that's what we have to do, organic gardening or farming a practical, workable arrangement. When we speak of organic gardening, we refer to the utilization of those methods and practices that restore to the earth through natural methods the elements essential to the production of the best crops. These take into account the great value of the manures produced on the place, of composting vegetable matter such as grass, leaves, and vegetable and fruit peelings, and returning those elements to the earth in a form available for immediate plant use. All right, so this is organic, and this is where we should go and must go. You know, many people plant by buying the Roundup, and no, we ought to move away from that, right? This is the method. All right, let's look at a few more things before we close. It says, implements and machinery. Limited finances may make it impossible for a newcomer to the rural community to have the needed machinery for economical work in his garden or small farm. But here again, a wholesome cooperation of neighbors may make possible the exchange of the more expensive machinery, such as tractor, plow, and work animals. The homesteader should, however, as rapidly as possible, seek to become self-contained and independent. I want to encourage us that you don't have to get to country to start buying things you might need. You don't get the country land yet, but you can buy a fork. Buy the fork. You don't get the country land yet, buy your water boot, buy your gloves, buy a cutlass, buy a file. Do you understand? Storing up. So when the time comes, you already have some of the things you need. And if it's one thing every single one of us in here must own, is our? No, something goes before that. Water boot. You must first have your water boot. That's the first thing. When the man in the country, when the countryman them see you, and you just come here in your shoes, they don't bother say nothing. They say, you know, stone people. When you reach and they look, water boot, they say, yeah man. Yeah man, you ready now? Are you there? First thing, water boot. Then cutlass. And then you go down the line. All right? So we have to start, if we have not. You don't have to have your land yet, but you're looking. Start gathering the things that you're going to need. This is called sensibleness, or being sensible and practical. All right? Last slide now, we're closing up. A few hives of bees will produce a large part of the sweet needed by the family with very little time and small space devoted to their care. And we have a reference here. So this is one of the things we can do in our rural life experience. The bees is everything, if you can. Don't have to be large, a small thing. Honey, pollen, there's a superfood the bee produces. What do we call that again? There's a superfeed that the food that the bees produce. I think it's pollen, well, however they produce it, but you can set something, as the bees come in, it brushes it off, and you can collect that. Bee pollen. You can eat that, and it's very nutritious, full of vitamins, bee pollen. So you can get food, and by the way, if you don't know, it is Sabbath, we remember, but honey is like gold. Honey is like gold. Are you there with me? Honey is like gold. And it's not a product that comes out of the bee. They regurgitate. When you're eating honey, it's the vomit. But it's good. It's a vomit. They vomit it out, but it's good. All right? It's good. It's good. Right? So this is another, all right? So this is another area that we can think about. I want to let you know, though, if you go into that area, you must get a few hits. You must get a few hits. It's how the bees communicate with you. To tell you that we know you're here and we're working together. All right? So you must get a few hits. And one of the times that you leave them alone is when it sets up to rain. When it sets up to rain. Why? Bees are intelligent creatures. Are you there? They know by the wind it's going to rain. And so what happened? All the drones come home. You have drone, worker bee, queen. Are you there with me? Who are the ones that give you a few hits? The drones. They are the ones that fly out. But when rain sets up, everybody come home. And so that's when they are most aggressive. All right? So you don't reap what you should reap at that time. Right? I'll tell you, you will not get it, but you will gain something, and that's a few weight, pounds, different areas, all right? So you don't trouble them at that time. This is an area that we can look into. Always close on this text, 3 John 2. What's that? Beloved, wish above all things that thou mayest what? Prosper and be in even. So prosper. All right, your hand was up. Let's take the last hands and then we pray to close. Go.
All right, Ella. Pastor, sorry. So on fertilizer, there's one fertilizer that we send down the drain year in, year out. And some of us may say, boy, no, we're not going to deal with that one. It's called composting. So we use, so the same thing that you do with the foul dung, with sawdust, the same thing that you do with foul dung and sawdust, you do the same with your feces. And you have, and listen to me, research it for yourself. I don't know why we are afraid of it. We used to clean our babies, right? Anyways, so I'm just saying, if you should use, there are two things, right? So you have your urine, research it for yourself. It's something I've done, and I've seen tremendous results in my plants. Your urine can be used as urea. So when you buy urea at the store, it's actually another, how do I put it? Another animal's excrements that you're dealing with. But you're comfortable because you don't know that's it, right? Anyways, that's what it is. Or they create a synthetic version of it, but it's the same thing. However, you dilute it so you can use it on your plants, and that's your urea. And I've seen tremendous results with my banana trees and plantain trees using that. One. So in terms of the fecal matter now, mixing it, so country living, you may not have flush toilet, but if you wish to, you could use what is a composting toilet, and you use it with sawdust, and when you're done, you place that in a barrel for 1 year, after which it becomes dust and is very high in nutrients for your plants. No doubt, you can research it yourself. It's something I've looked into. And think about it. All right, listen up. Think about it. Persons who eat meat does this and gain tremendous results. Imagine you eating fruit, vegetable, and all of these things. Yes, it's waste you're passing out. And I'm not telling you to play with the waste. There's a way that you deal with it. And as I said, when you last place the last amount in the barrel, you close that barrel, date it, and 1 year later, you have perfect manure. As I said, you're dealing with fowl. People don't have a problem taking up fowl and, where this thing, rat bat manure, very rich, rabbit, is doo-doo. Simply put. So you're just dealing with yours in a very specific way. Leaves, trees, rotten trees is what we call peat moss. So you pay thousands of dollars at the store so you don't have to, deal with these things. Go check a rotten tree, man, in the woods. Literally. Dig it up. I don't see what richer than that. The next thing that I realized with farming, it's something we've been studying. A lot of farmers fork the ground. Look into it, brethren. If you should throw seed in anywhere, nobody never fork it up, nobody never dig a hole, and it grow. I used to question it because I used to dig a hole to plant papayas. But I realized if you throw the papaya seed out, the papaya tree grew and bare and nice, and I'm here trying to get this papaya tree that I plant. And it's just not working. And I started thinking, why am I working against nature? Observe any forest, anywhere, the biggest, the tallest trees, nobody went there and planted it. But somehow, through nature and God taking care of it, it works. So study your soil. There are certain microorganisms that live on a certain level of the soil. When you dig that, you disturb those microorganisms. And if you recognize the farmer that does the forking, he doesn't plant in it immediately. He forks it and leaves it for a while because he has just disturbed the microorganisms and he's allowing it to reset. Maybe he doesn't know that, but the science behind it is that. So if you are to smartly do it, and that is why the LNG White method is perfect, because when you dig the hole, she's showing you how to pack back, I should say God's method, God gave it to her. She packs back that hole with the nutrients that is required based on the organisms needed to grow that plant. All right, so study, brethren. Agriculture is not just some dig hole, throw something at the hole. It's a science. There's a science to it, and everything. You may not understand everything, but sit down and dedicate some time to looking at how the things work, and pray to God. He will give us the knowledge to get it perfectly done. And use everything you have. Don't think everything is just. Use what you have. All right?
All right. Thank you.
Yes, Pastor. I'm talking about bees. Bees are very unique in a sense. I'm a bees farmer, and you have a worm they call the martworm. I don't know if you know about that worm, or you ever heard about it. When rain fall, those worms, that's the time that those worms come out, and they can eat down a box in a space of 2 days time. So when rain fall, it's a time that mostly that you check the bees. You don't disturb them, but you go and look in them, open them and go and look in them. That time they are more calmer because them inside. So you go and check them. And Friday, I make a split in our box. Why? Because that box was overcrowded. So I could split it, and I get a next box outside Friday. You understand? So they are very unique, and you can work with them. You understand? In a many ways. But one principle that bees don't like, you cannot go to partner and go to bees, none at all. They will damage you. None at all you cannot do. You cannot go to your partner and go to bees. You cannot go to your partner and then go to bees. You cannot do that. If you do that, you will find yourself in a serious position. They will kill you.
I didn't quite hear. You can't go to?
You cannot go to your partner and then go to bees. If you do that, you will find yourself in serious problem. They will kill you.
That's proven?
Of course. I cannot do that.
All right.
I was trained in bees farming, so I'm a bees farmer.
All right. All right, so let us... You have to keep your hand up, my sister. All right. State the final point. Then we'll pray.
Yes, what I'm saying is, he's talking about manure, but in Woodford St. Andrew, we don't have to think about that. The amount of trees.
Is that mic? Don't think that mic is...
No, what I was saying is, he's talking about what you use around the plants, like manure and so forth. But because you have pear trees, you have all different trees, the amount of leaves that shed from those trees, and you put them together. When you put them at those banana roots, it's the fattest bananas you ever have. You have a 10 and a 11 and a 12 and bunch of bananas. You know, you just pack them around the root, and you just leave them here. Anything you sweep the yard, because we have a big yard. So when you sweep, you put the thing in one place. And when you put them at those roots, you don't want to see them. They are healthy, and they are big and strong. So you have different manures. And we have never used those manures. We just use whatsoever we have. So you don't have to worry about it. Nature itself, make the thing them look fat and fluffy.
All right, let us close this session. Loving Lord, eternal Father, we come to another close. For your glory and only for your honor. As these truths come to us, both the spiritual application and the literal and practical way, may we apply our hearts unto wisdom. I pray that all we have gone through, part 8 we've just completed, that the people will commit their hearts as they learn that your Spirit can be able to work with us. May we not slight this message, for if we do, we condemn our own soul, for we are in the final generation. And very soon, this will not be a talk tale, but it will be seen who obeyed and who didn't. Lord, save us, for we cannot save ourselves. In Jesus' name we pray.